Good morning. Today is Friday, July 3rd, and we're going to be looking at the 5th chapter of the Gospel of Mark. 2 stories, just 2. Not parables. We talked about that a little bit, chapter 4. But we have these 2 big stories in Mark's Gospel. Now, we'll see later on in John's Gospel, we'll have a whole chapter that's just one story. So having 2 stories in the whole chapter is not uncommon. There's a lot of action, again, going on in Mark's Gospel. So, yesterday we left off, Jesus stilled the storm. He was asleep on the boat, and they had to wake him up to still the storm. So in chapter 5, he's 2 healings. One is the Gerasene demoniac, and the other is the woman with the issue of blood. So very famous stories. I think if you ever went to Sunday school, these were both done on the felt board with the little pictures that the Sunday school teacher would do. But I think they're really important stories for our confidence and faith and our devotion and prayer life right now. The main one, the first one, about the Gerasene demoniac is that Jesus went to the other side of the lake to an area called the Decapolis. And this is not where he's been. Up to this point, he's been in Jewish communities. He's been around Jewish authorities who are saying, you shouldn't do that on the Sabbath. And there's been conversations around synagogue, and his family has been around. We've talked about that too. So he is in Jewish circles up until the point where he says to them, let's go to the other side of the lake. And of course, overnight, they do that. There's a storm. But when they get there, they came to the county of the Gerasenes, is what it says, and stepped off the boat. Immediately the man, and there's this demoniac, this man who's possessed by demons. He lives in the tombs. He's strong. They can't bind him with chains because he broke them. He lives among the tombs. It's very sad. So for good Jews, well, number one, you're in this foreign place where the Decapolis, where it's not Jewish lands, it's not customs, and also living in the tombs would be unclean. And then he's possessed by demons. And we know the story, if you've probably heard it before. This is what makes good on the felt board, that Jesus asked them the name, and calls them out, says, come out of him. He says, we are legion. My name is Legion, for we are many. And this unclean spirits in the guy's body begged Jesus to put him into what Mark calls a herd of swine. Now, if you know anything about Jewish customs or kosher laws, you know that swine would also be not so great of a thing. So they're encountering the disciples that are with Jesus going to the other side of the lake, are encountering all of these things that are considered unclean. Tahor and Tameh. Tameh would be the most unclean thing. You just have to go through ritual cleansing to come back into the community after encountering several of the things that are listed here with the story of the Gerasene demoniac. So the man possessed of all these demons that no one could control, Jesus sends the demons out of the man into the swineherd. They go off the edge of a cliff and they drown. Jesus, when people heard what had happened, they came and they wanted to check it out. And they found the guy sitting quietly in his right mind, like they had never seen him before, because the demons were gone and he was completely healed. And then they were scared of what Jesus could do, and they begged him to leave. They didn't understand. Who is this rabbi that's coming from the other side of the lake to bother us and mess up what's going on with our land? And so Jesus said, okay, I'll leave. Jesus gets into the boat, and the man who had been possessed begged to come with him. But Jesus says, no. It says that Jesus refused him. Go home to your friends and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and what mercy he has shown you. And he went away and began to proclaim in the Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him, and everyone was amazed. And we see Jesus in other places saying, follow me, follow me. And when this guy says, oh, can I follow you? Jesus says, no. We also see Jesus in other places say, don't tell anybody who I am. But not only does Jesus say, don't follow me, he also says, go tell everybody what I did. You know, make heads or tails of it yourself. So there's two stories in this one passage about this woman with the issue of blood. Jesus crossed again on the boat to the other side. And there's the crowd again. He was trying to get away from the crowd, and he encountered the demoniac. So one of the leaders of the synagogues, Jairus, came. This is Jairus' daughter getting healed. His little daughter is at the point of death. Can you lay your hands on her? So as they were going to Jairus' house to heal Jairus' daughter, the crowd was pressing in on him. And a woman who had been suffering hemorrhages for 12 years and endured much, she heard about Jesus. And she came up behind him in the crowd to touch his cloak. For she said, if I but touch his clothes, I will be made well. And he touched her. She touched his clothes. And immediately she was made well. And then, of course, she could be clean. Because, again, the issue of blood would be something that would make her tame as well, unclean, to be in the community. Immediately aware that the power had gone forth from him. That's a really weird thing. I just didn't know if it was like I felt a zap of power. But Jesus turns and the crowd and said, who touched my clothes? And the disciples said to him, you see this crowd pressing you? How can you say who touched me? Like you're in a crowd, which we'll never be in again because of COVID. But it was a joke. That was a bad joke. But so he looked around to see who done it. But the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came in trembling and fell down before him and told him the whole truth. And he said to her, daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your disease. He just wanted to talk to her. He just wanted to see who it was, how she was doing. And check on her. While he was still speaking, some people came and said to Jairus, your daughter's dead. Why trouble the teacher any further? But overhearing what they said, Jesus said to the leader, do not fear, only believe. Good dialogue. This would make a great movie. And he allowed no one to follow him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. And when they came to the house of the leader of the synagogue, he saw a commotion, people weeping and wailing loudly. When they had entered, he said to them, why do you make a commotion and weep? This child is not dead, but sleeping. And they laughed at him. And he put them all outside and took the child's father and mother and those who were with him. And so the father, mother, Peter, James, and John, and Jesus in the house with the child. And he took her by the hand and he said to her, little girl, get up. And immediately the girl got up and began to walk about. She was 12 years of age. Do not fear, only believe. All three of these stories are do not fear, only believe. The woman didn't even ask permission. She just believed that if she touched the garment, she'd be healed. The child didn't have any faith for that. And even the people around didn't. They were weeping. They didn't understand. So it wasn't their faith that healed the daughter. It was just Jesus doing it for them. And then the demoniac, Jesus wanted to care and be compassionate for the people that were born in a different place than him, under a different system than he was. And he wanted to go over there to the other side of the lake. And he knew he would encounter somebody he could heal or help. And so he did. And he left him there to tell his story. I really like him. It's really speaking to me that No matter if you have the strong faith that the woman with the issue of blood did, not to give up, but to try again. Or if you have no faith at all, but you just ask, can you help? Sometimes you do all the work and get to the miracle, like the woman with the issue of blood. But sometimes Jesus brings you more than halfway into the miracle that you could be encountering. And then sometimes Jesus crosses over into another world, brings the disciples with him as an example, and then delivers you, because Jesus is this liberator. And we have this encounter in our lives over and over again. It's not just one time. Over and over again, God is showing us through the scriptures or through what we encounter during the day, how to be better people, how to be better humans, how to live our life better, how to make the world a better place. Travel to the other side of the lake. Have enough faith to reach to just that if I just do this, just this much. Or just ask. And then let the Spirit lead you in one direction or another. I mean, with so many options, so many doors open, so many ways and paths to experience the full goodness of God. I hope you will do that today. Amen.